All right, I'll say. How are you all this evening of your time as you create time to exist? How's the dream going? All right. Yes, very active. Let us begin with an interaction based on the idea, and this is also the title, if you wish, for tonight, paradox. All right? All right. In this way, the idea, once again, that we have illuminated and outlined to some degree within many of the interactions we have had with you from time to time is that when you find yourself coming across the expression in your lives you call paradox, then you know you are dealing with the higher consciousness more directly. For you will find that the higher consciousness has a tendency to be, in your terms, broken down into seemingly diametrically polarized occurrences in physiological reality. Therefore, when you begin in your expansion, in your so-called search for your spirituality, to come across more and more understandings of more and more situations that seem to be, in your terms, paradoxical, expressing what you call dichotomy or polarity, then you know you are standing firmly and squarely at the center of those two seemingly opposite events, and that means that they both come from you, they are both projected from you. You standing at the center are the very example and the very indication that both of those things in coming from you, because you have the ability to see what appears to be both sides, means that within you they are blended. They are one concept. They are one event. They are one idea. They are one thing. Within that blending, there is no dichotomy, polarity, paradox, or expressions of the manifestation of the unbroken wholeness of your higher consciousness in physical reality. Because by definition, physical reality is that which separates, so that you can see the components, so to speak, of which the higher homogeneous wholeness is created. Thus, individuals for many tens of thousands of years in your society have gone about living their lives, and according to what they have bought into in terms of a belief of what that life should be, many of them will find no paradox occurring so much in their lives, or if it does, they will have a tendency or have had a tendency to ignore it because it does not fit into what they have been taught is the life you are, quote-unquote, supposed to live, the way things are, quote-unquote, supposed to be. Now that you are expanding in your awareness, now that you know that there is no one way, but that each and every one of you is your own path towards the understanding of the infinite creation, you are going to run into more and more of the idea of paradox. And you are going to see it not only expressed in the daily events in each individual life, but in mass events as you find different, quote-unquote, factions within your society becoming more and more polarized within their estimation as to how to relate to the reality around them. At this time, there are three, once again a triad, three basic groupings of mass consciousness upon your planet that we perceive. The dynamic interactions of these three are what are spurring you forward, whether at times it may seem like it or not, into the fourth density, higher consciousness reality. It is the interaction and the momentum created by this interaction, playing off of one another, that is allowing you to examine all the different facets of the paths you have lived for many thousands of lives, many thousands of years, and now are allowing you to be capable of integrating these reflections you are getting from each other so that you can come to a clear and conscious understanding of the fact that all that seems to be paradoxical within life is in fact blended and contained within the one higher consciousness that you are. The three basic divisions, shall we say, that now exist upon your planet are individuals. Now, before we begin, in no way, shape, or form is any of the following definitions meant in any way to indicate that something is better or worse than anything else. You follow me? These are simply distinctions as we perceive the conglomerate energy of your society, and they are, in their own right, completely and totally valid, for each is playing its part in the spurring of the momentum towards fourth density. One will be, and again these definitions are very general, one will be those that generally recognize themselves to be the creators of their reality. What you may generally lump, as you say, under the term metaphysicians, so to speak. This is a very loose terminology. One will be the idea of any individual following in any way, shape, or form in accordance with what you would call religious aspects. The individuals in this way who, in your terms, follow a schematic they believe to have been laid down by one or more facets or reflections of the infinite creator in that way. The third will be what you generally term the scientific approach, and into this will also fall any sociological structure that is so based, including what you refer to as politics. These three ideas are playing off each other and allowing there to be the foundations of the three aspects of physicality, mentality, emotionality, and the spirituality in life. In this way, the idea is to recognize that many paradoxes, many polarizations will continue to increase between these three factions for a time, although you will find that there are, as always, hints and clues as to where each and every one of these three blend with all the other two. You are beginning to see that ideas that have for a long time been held to be religious or metaphysical are cropping up in science. Ideas that have for a long time been held to be completely scientific are cropping up in religion and metaphysics. And ideas in this way that have been long held to be simply religious can also be shared by the other two ideas. They are now beginning to form the foundations for the blending of the three, but at first, primarily for one reason, they will continue to separate a little further, gaining dynamic tension for a while. This dynamic tension is building up for the purpose of creating there to be a very strong springboard once the dynamic tension is snapped, so that you will go through the doorway into fourth density in a very dynamically propelled fashion. But you are beginning to recognize that there are underlying foundations into which each and every one of those three aspects all have a degree of commonality. They are, of course, simply different aspects of the same one thing, but your society does not realize it yet. The one reason, the primary reason that this is not realized in your society is simply because of what you call definitions. That is it. Semantics. That is it. The idea of the definitions of what you think you believe. For you will find that one faction will say, well, that other faction or this other faction, they say this and this, and therefore I do not agree with them, and I will fight them to the death. However, recognize that all that is being done is that what is being said by one faction is simply being interpreted by the other factions in their own terminology, and according to only what they understand or what definitions they have applied to those particular aspects of life. That will determine how they choose to understand what another faction is saying. Therefore, still, quite often you will find that one faction, while they may think they understand what another faction means, very often only understands what they themselves mean by their definition, the definition they have been taught to believe about what another faction means, and not really what the other faction means at all. This is why we have discussed with you of late the idea, not that you have to analyze this into oblivion, but the idea of being very concise and very clear in your communication with any other individuals in your society about what it is you believe, For in this way, you can then provide for them the clearest and concisest definition of how it is you actually mean what symbols you are using. For meaning, once again, will vary from individual to individual, and the biggest assumption in your planet is that what one thing means to another individual is the same for everyone, and this is nowhere near the idea. For do not forget, no symbol comes with built-in meaning. They are all blank. You fill in the meaning that has relevance and significance to you. Your interpretation is what you experience of life. The idea, therefore, fundamentally, of the expression of the paradox will be, first and foremost, in the creation of a blending, in recognizing, as we have shared, that the paradox of what an individual may say to you, there is only one truth. All right, there is only one truth. And the paradox is that that one truth is that all truths are true. That is the paradox. So you see, it is not something that has to be a conflict, something that has to be contradictory in that sense. Each and every faction simply has their own way of saying it. For themselves, they know what they mean in their own relative point of view. But it is still all the same information because it is all the same universe. It is simply that, as a co-creator with the infinite creator, you are creating your version, your interpretation of the one creation. And that is how you create more creation. Even though everything already exists, there's another paradox. You follow me? Allow yourself, therefore, as these things crop up in your society, to not necessarily have to fall into the idea of battling these other individuals to stand up for what you know to be true, but simply recognize that if you truly do believe what you say you believe, then simply continue to live your life in that manner. And if you change your mind, change your mind. Ultimately, it doesn't matter. You follow?
Yes.
Thank you. Sherry!
Well.
Another paradox. Yes.
It has seemed over the last 20, 30, 40 years that crime is on the increase throughout Western civilization in general, certainly in the United States, where when I was a child you could leave your door open, now you have to lock your home and your car.
All right, we have discussed this to some degree.
Okay, I wasn't here. I'm interested.
The idea is analogous to the fact that you are now bringing all the different ideas of negativity to the surface and allowing them to run, as you say, rampant, because now you are forced to deal with them. Now you are forced to deal with the reasons, not just the surface effect. It is so prevalent that you can no longer ignore it. Let it pass. It is no longer just a surface effect. You must now deal with the core, the heart of why these traits exist in your society. And the basic foundational reason as to why they exist is because your society has been taught to believe it is powerless. The idea is not so much the idea of being powerless against other individuals, no, but that those individuals expressing the criminal activity believe they are powerless, and that is why they attempt to make everyone else around them equal to themselves, just as powerless. The idea is that you have been taught that you do not have the ability to create the life you want, the life you desire. And so this creates a great deal of frustration in many individuals in your society. They feel, therefore, that they must try to control other individuals to get what they want, because they themselves have not been taught that they are themselves in control and can have anything they desire without having to hurt anyone else or themselves in order to get it. When you now begin to teach the individuals in your world that every single person is that powerful, and through the functioning of integrity, you can create whatever reality you desire, then they will be self-empowered, and they will not have to force their points of view or their ways of life on anyone else, which is only a sign that they believe they are powerless. Thank you.
I have a question. A friend of mine who's not here tonight question to ask you.
Before you speak, allow me to remind, once again, each and every one of you, that anything that you have co-created and attracted yourself to hear being said from anyone else is there for a reason. There is always a way with the creativity I know you possess, and the imaginations I know you express, to take what anyone else has to share or say and apply it to yourselves, so that everything can be a learning, a sharing, and a growing. Different things may have what you may term relative degrees of significance or importance to you, but you are still participating just by the very fact that you are where you are, and by the very fact that you are able to hear someone else say something. That means it is a reflection of a part of you. Once again, there are no boring situations, only bored minds. Let yourselves expand within your curiosity and your excitement, and let yourselves be fascinated by everything, for nothing happens by accident. Everything that is said, every nuance, every subtle shading has a reason. It is completely orchestrated by all of you in tandem. It is a co-creation. Be absorbed in that, and you will have the fascination of a child. Continue.
Yeah, well, this friend of mine, Kim, she comes here a lot. Anyway, she said she wants to know about drugs and alcohol and the different effects that they create. She's noticed that sometimes some people who are drunk get real silly, and some people get real belligerent.
Nice.
And she wants to know, is this caused by negative ego, or is it a magnification of their true feelings?
In a sense, both. The idea many times is that an individual has not felt that they could be communicative in their society, and when they allow what you may call the in-taught, the inbred inhibitions to drop, they may have something they wish to say, and they may have been taught that there is no easy way to say it, so they will wait until they are about to explode. Then once they let the barrier drop, the only way they know to say it is to explode, is to become belligerent in that way. That is the only way they believe they will be heard, because your society has taught you that only if you shout loud enough do you get paid attention to. Therefore, there may be just as many reasons for the different various actions as there are individuals. But in general, any individual who in that way ascribes the idea that the drug is what is letting them say their piece is simply not realizing that they are the ones creating the opportunity, and they are using the drug as an excuse. For the drug has absolutely no power. You give it the power. The drug is there, and it can be a tool in what you may call extreme moderation, to allow you to know what abilities you do have. From time to time, there are ways in which a so-called tool, such as a drug, so to speak, can allow you to recognize that you can go beyond what you believe you couldn't go beyond. Once that has been accomplished, you no longer need the tool, you no longer need the drug. But because your society, once again, has been taught that the power is not there within you, then it is simply your habit to put the power outside of you, in the tool, in the drug. And thus you think, well, that was wonderful, allowed me to really get it off my chest. Therefore, the next time I have something to get off my chest, I have to use the drug again. And thus builds the idea of dependency and addiction. Because you do not realize that what the drug was showing you is that you have the capability all along and you don't need the drug. It was only a reflection, a momentary reflection. It was the tool you were willing to allow to be the reflection that showed you had the power. You follow me?
Thank you.
Does that assist you?
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
One other question. I have a sister-in-law who, she had a tubal ligation a few years ago. And now she's married to a guy, they want to have children, and she's tried various things to undo this.
It is not yet timing. This individual may also find we perceive the energy now. Does not mean it cannot change. We perceive the energy now, right now, to be most likely in the direction of what you call adoption. For there are individuals that individual can hook up with, as you say, again, that have already been born, so that they do not necessarily have to have the idea of the physical birth themselves to have contact with the individual that in all senses of the word has agreed to be their child. You follow me?
Yes.
If that does not occur within what you call the next 3 of your years, then we sense there can be a physiological change that may allow a physiological birth within the individual. But you may find that the idea of an association and an attraction of an already physicalized child may occur within the next 3 years.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sharon.
Bashar.
You. Then you.
Do you have animals on your planet?
Speak up. Yes, we have animals on our planet.
Okay. I was curious to... I'm very involved with animal rights on this planet, and I would be interested in anything that you could share to assist us.
Simply show everyone how much you love them. Teach everyone that they are extensions of your consciousness, and that anything anyone wishes to learn about an animal can simply be learned by identifying with the animal, by asking it, by communicating with it, or by communicating as it. That is what your imagination is for. You have the ability to create a synchronous, harmonious identification pattern. And in so doing, you can literally become your version of the animal and learn everything from a very intimate point of view that anyone would want to learn about the animal.
Okay, well, I'm talking from more of a societal standpoint that believes that vivisection is necessary in order for them to learn.
We understand the way you say it exists, but that has nothing to do with anything. The way it exists is not a reason for you not living the life you believe to be true for you. You follow me?
I follow how my being in contact with animals...
You being the example of how to communicate with animals and learn from them what you need to learn can teach other individuals that they do not have to kill the animal in order to learn what they need to learn. Open up your communication and be an example to your society that there are other ways. Then they will see within you another choice. Follow me.
Okay.
Why are you hesitant?
I guess
Do you think it will be a big battle? An uphill struggle?
Well, because my presence is not exposed to the scientists that need to see the reflection of me with the animals.
Well, why not? Whose creation is that? Do you understand that if you truly are the whole idea of expressing that to your society, you will automatically attract yourself into whatever environment you need to be attracted in order to show whoever needs to see it that they need to see the idea being expressed within you. Just because you aren't there now doesn't mean anything. Live the idea, and if showing other individuals there is another way is what you wish to do, you will be attracted into those environments so other individuals can see that there is another way. You are holding yourself back from being the idea because you are not seeing the end result before you begin. Begin and everything will be there at the same time. You follow me?
Yeah.
You are creating stipulations. I can't do that because. I can't do this because. Be the idea that you are. Interact with the animals in the way you know expresses your unconditional love, and simply share with any other individuals you come across the idea that they can be learned from without killing them. Recognize it is a scientific principle already that you cannot really observe a process by stopping it. So perhaps you can take that particular tangent. The idea is very simple, however. You do not have to make a very complex idea out of it. Simply be the individual you are moved to be, and you will wind up in the circles you need to wind up in.
I have some information on that. See you afterwards.
Okay. What I guess I was looking for was like if you knew of alternatives that the scientific community would want to hear about, so that they don't feel that this is the only way for them to practice, that they're looking for it in black and white, and they want the scientific. Like I went to a cosmetic. I was in Merle Norman's today, and I was talking to the chemist at Merle Norman's and stuff about tests, and they want to know what they could do specifically so that they don't have to, so that they feel they don't have to do the Dre's test and they don't have to do the LD50s and kill these animals. I know that it's wrong and that it's not necessary, but I don't.
It is not right or wrong.
Well,
it may be a negative expression.
Yes, it's a very negative expression, and I.
Negative, not in the judgmental sense, just in a definitive sense. Negative meaning separative, limiting.
Okay. Well,
the idea still may include a necessity on their part to adopt at least a bit of a belief system that in general your scientists do not believe exists. For if they were willing to recognize that every being has an etheric and an astral counterpart, they could glean all the tests from that. But they are not even willing to admit that that exists. They must somewhere restructure the basic foundational understanding of their beliefs in order to take advantage of what they desire to take advantage of. It will not occur within a framework that has no room for the ability to be able to get the information from another source, other than the physical. If they wish another methodology, then they must expand their definition beyond the framework they have already invested in. Then they will give themselves the ability to tap into the information they seek, still in a very seemingly scientific way with all sorts of instruments and the like. But they still have to understand that there are ways to read the magnetic and electrical energies of a being. There are methodologies that can be created now through what you call the polarity potential, the electromagnetic polarity potential of the cellular structure of any body while it is alive. Each and every cell functions like a gate in many different ways, expressing itself almost like a very tiny battery. And the entire body of any living organism expresses itself totally like a battery in that way. By reading the so-called amperage, if you wish, of the flow within the cellular structures of the body, they can take, let us say, sounding, and they can catalog lists of the different types of sounding and create an entire energy picture of the body. And by reading how the energy flows, once they map the body out electrically that way, electromagnetically in that way, then by simply taking a reading at any particular point, this is where the idea of acupuncture originated a long time ago in your terms. By taking a reading in that way, they can turn what they believe to be an esoteric idea into a very scientific one. By simply reading the electromagnetic potential of the being and the flow of the energy through that being in very specific ways, because there are specific gates, meridian points, that define and describe the energy pattern that a physical being is. They have been known for quite some time in the idea of acupuncture, but many scientists simply, again, do not believe that that has any validity, and so don't pursue it. You follow me?
Yeah.
That is one way. It is up to you. Do your own research based on your own excitement. You will find what you need to find. And, again, synchronistically, you will attract, as has already been pointed out to you, individuals who can supply you with information if you feel at a loss. Just because you have now put out with your vocal conviction and communication to the rest of the individuals that surround you what is the idea you wish to do, then you have gotten an automatic synchronistic response from an individual that can be of assistance to you. That is all you need to do. The more you put it out, the more individuals will know what you are all about, and the more information will come to you along the path of least resistance. You follow me?
Yeah.
Simply continue in that way. Thank you.
Thank you, Bashar.
Guys,
Bashar, I just returned from a trip to the Southwest in which I went to the Hopi Reservation.
good.
And I spoke with an elder, Grandfather David.
All right.
And
Did you have a good time?
well, yeah, I had a great time.
All right.
And
Speak up.
I asked him about the 4 aspects of the feminine,
All right.
and he didn't. I don't think he understood, but I'm not sure. But he didn't really want to talk about it.
He understood.
But I don't understand. I don't understand why I was unable to have a dialogue with him.
You have had dialogue, not physically. The idea in allowing yourself to integrate the idea of the 4 aspects, as you term it, is to recognize that you are having dialogue. Now, an elder, to some degree, generally, will choose to play with you a little bit. Lead you on a little bit. See exactly how serious you are, how persistent you are. You follow me?
Yes.
How persistent are you?
Very.
All right. Did you share with that individual your understanding of the concept?
No, because I felt confused as well.
Well, there you go. You got an exact reflection.
All right. I know.
More willingness on your part to recognize that you know what you need to know and to put it out will give back to you the reflection in like kind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was thinking when I spoke with you a while back about speaking to an elder, you had said to me, have you thought about going to this area?
Yes.
Speaking to an elder. And then you said, go,
Yes.
they will know
Yes.
what it is you're asking. Well,
Yes.
and I did, but in a way I felt I was kind of blindly following the suggestion.
Why did you follow it then if you felt that way?
Well, yeah, you're right. All right. Okay. Then I had one other question that had to do, I felt for some reason during this trip that a lot of work went on at that time in my dream.
Yes, that is what I just told you. You have had dialogues not in the physical reality.
All right. Well, I remember one dream in which I was being instructed by a Hopi man.
Well, gee whiz. What a surprise!
But I can't remember what I can't remember the exchange.
Well, relax. The information is within you. You have made the journey. You have made the journey. And you have had the dialogue. Just simply now live your life knowing it is within you, and you will see it come out in your actions.
All right.
All right?
All right. I had another question.
All right.
I was wondering what kind of work you were doing with the Kachinas.
Oh, very exciting. As of late, as we informed many of the individuals on your planet recently of your time, we are connecting with 5 different civilizations to undergo what you may colloquially term an expedition of sorts into that particular dimensional framework in which we perceive their consciousness to be enfolded or intertwined. The idea for us is that we have recognized communication with aspects of the consciousness you would refer to as Kachina consciousness or Kachina energy, but now we are beginning to delve into the very heart, the very core of their existence, and we find them to be very intimately intertwined with the very fundamental fabric and structure of physical reality itself. This is very exciting for us.
Intertwined with the structure of society?
All physical reality. They are. All right, now, you may have heard this term. We recognize it as an entire phrase in your society. This term does exist in your culture, and it has been used from time to time. It is, in this light, an appropriate analogy to refer to the Kachina by. Considering the entire physical universe to be, so to speak, a machine, the Kachina being heavily intertwined into the very structure, the very skeleton, if you will, that gives form to the machine, makes the Kachinas ghosts in the machine. They are the spirits of the machine. They are archetypal representations of the very structure of the consciousness of creation itself in physical terms. That is what we are beginning to discover about them. We will keep you posted.
Okay. Do Kachinas act as spirit guides? No.
Can, in a sense, more like true reflections of energy, of combined conglomerate mass consciousness energies in embodiment spirit forms, symbolically presented based upon whatever way is comfortable for the particular culture that chooses to perceive that particular facet of them at any given moment or time.
Could you define the 5? You said there are 5 aspects?
5 different civilizations that we are exploring this idea with as what you would call one project.
Could you define those civilizations?
One is Sirius. One to some degree is Arcturus energy. There is some intermixing with what you may call reticulum. The others you do not know. Not yet. Thank you.
I had one last question.
All right.
This was a question
Speak up.
A while ago. I asked you about a dream, and it was a dream that had to do with a thunderbird, or connecting with a thunderbird energy. And I interpreted the thunderbird energy as being the higher self.
All right.
Is that accurate? Can you?
It is valid for you.
All right.
If it will allow you to soar, yes.
There was a portion of the dream that I had not remembered until I went back later and read it. And I wanted to ask you about that because in the beginning of that dream that we talked about before, there was a scene in which I was playing with a boy who I realized was my son. And we were walking together, and at one point he said to me, "Be careful or you will not have a child in your womb." And I remember in my dream I thought about this very intensely, and I was wondering, well, what was it that I needed to be careful about? And was that more a symbolic rebirth, or was that actually...
To some degree, yes. Understand that the idea you call the thunderbird is also analogous to the phoenix rising from its own ashes. Rebirth in that way. The idea is to simply recognize that the power that you feel in that symbol is something that does represent the being, the creatorhood that you are. You do not have to feel that it will burn you out, make you barren. You follow me?
Yeah.
You can connect with that energy. Simply recognize that from the belief structures of many different lifetimes, the degree of, let us say, reverence and respect you have treated it with has also brought with it some modicum of fear rather than equality. Let yourself be equal, and you will, in your own terms, be the fruit of your own womb. All right?
Yes.
Thank you. Sure. Yay!
Synchronicities related to what you were just talking about.
1, 2.
Number one, I got at a garage sale this week a Kachina doll that I got sitting up on the counter. small one. And also, 2 days ago, I went for a wonderful, glorious ride in Zeta Reticulum mothercraft. And got the whole tour. Very exciting.
Thank you for the creation in your energy state and the intertwining and the blending of your dream and imagination reality with your physical reality. For then you are shortening the bridge a bit at a time and bringing the two sides of the apparent chasm closer and closer and closer together, so that there will be no need of a bridge because there is no chasm.
Right. Exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You. Then you.
I would like to ask some questions about dolphins. And I might
All right, speak up.
Should I ask you or should I ask to speak to the dolphin? That's the first question.
We have to some degree the idea of a blending. It will remain in the fashion you are perceiving it now, but there will be a blending, a connection. Okay. Continue.
We're working with autistic children and dolphins. And there seems to be an extraordinary communication between the children and
yes.
the dolphins.
For you will recognize, first of all, once again, that the idea to some degree of what you call autism is that those individuals are still very highly focused into many different realities that your civilization may call dream or imaginary realities that are no less real. And, of course, the dolphins exist in dream reality very consciously. So they are finding simply that they are speaking in many ways the same language. They live in the dream reality. They are very highly focused in that sense.
We're using the dolphins to heal the children.
Yes.
Are the children going to be similarly a path for us to understand the dolphins?
Yes, of course. Everything works both ways. They are doorways. Depends upon who is willing to walk through them.
Earlier, we looked at a picture of some islands where we hope to establish a base for studies.
Hope.
Yeah.
Hope. Why hope?
In Tangent.
Then that is different.
Do you feel with your dolphin consciousness that they're correct? That those islands are correct? That they're the place?
They are in their configuration what you term the yin and the yang.
Right.
They are the polarities in a spiral motion. And in their center is a very strong gate. That will be the creation of the participation between your two species.
Is there an Atlantean link in this area?
Yes. Very strong. Understand that particular area was the embodiment of the southernmost island of Atlantis. The northernmost and larger island was off what you call the eastern seaboard of your present-day country. A little further north, there was a separation between the two islands. But the entire area you call the Bahamas was the southern island area of Atlantis.
Is work with the children and the dolphins going to lead to discoveries in that area?
Of the islands themselves can be fashioned into very small artifacts, whether pyramidal or spherical in nature, that in and of themselves will carry a high magnetic charge in the etheric sense, in the astral sense. They can be very strong identification tools for the Atlantean consciousness and assist with very, very little exposure the unlocking of many Atlantean memories and traits within any individual. More, the island itself can be utilized in that way. The idea is that there are artifacts in that area, and some of them have already been discovered. But you will find that what you will create will be a reflection of the new age in which you exist, for the precise old tools that you used to use in Atlantis will no longer exactly apply in the same way, for you are not the same individuals. You did work with them before in Atlantis, and you are working with them again in New Atlantis, which is what you call your United States of America, which is an almost exact historic parallel of Atlantis. You are retrieving many of the traits that existed then. The understanding and the fascination and the utilization of crystalline forms, communication with your brethren, the dolphin, interchange in that way, and the experience at the same time of what you call a very high physical technology. All of these were concurrent in Atlantis as well. It is simply slightly different now. And the idea now is that the energy you are putting into these endeavors is what is allowing you to experience, as you say, the flip side of the entire event, now that you are at the other end of the cycle, begun by destruction and now ending in the opportunity for integration and harmonious resolution. You follow me?
I have a last question.
All right.
There's a man in San Diego who's doing some extraordinary work, taking human saliva, putting it in a solution, connecting it to a computer, and can monitor the functions, the bodily functions of the persons from whom the saliva was taken, regardless of where the person is.
One moment. Are you paying attention?
I don't understand.
Just pay attention. What do you understand about what has been said so far in terms of applying it to the idea you desire to apply it to?
Some saliva.
That there is a way to extract ingredients from a living being that can be the encodification of the entire being without harming the original being. You follow me? Perk up and pay attention. You are getting your answers. They are all around you, blossoming like a garden in synchronicity.
And I know that at Atlantis they used a lot of vivisection, and that was a part of the synchronicity of when you mentioned the two countries. So
all right. But that was, in your terms, later in their history, not at first. There was also the idea of genetic engineering, and many negative expressions were created that way as well. Not that you have to imply that it is negative.
And it didn't work in Atlantis?
Well, what are you learning now?
I'm learning that there are alternatives.
All right. Then you are learning.
I was just curious if that society learned before it was destroyed.
Many in that society understood and were not in the destruction, having long since left before it. Those that were in the destruction have spent many thousands of lifetimes learning. They are now beginning to understand. Continue.
My question is, I spoke with a gentleman today with an idea of using saliva from a dolphin in the same experiment.
All right.
My question is, will we get something beyond the physical state of the dolphin from this? Is it possible that with this saliva and with an analysis of it, we might get something multidimensional and not just the...
Well, to some degree. Although what you will find is the non-physical dimensions of any living being do make their impression on the molecular arrangement of that substance. And so what you need to do is learn how to read where the impressions have been made, so that if you find a particular molecular bonding that indicate certain consciousness interactions with physical materiality, then you will know that non-physical consciousness has been at work here. But the idea is that you may still have to find the physiological symbol in the molecular bonding, the enzymatic action that represents that non-physical interaction. You follow me?
I understand.
Could liquid crystal be the medium for that impression?
Now, I have discussed your device, and according to the way we have discussed it in terms of the cycles per second, the rate of electric flow, and all of that, in that manner, can you still, once again, tap into the etheric nature of the dolphin or the human or any other consciousness within creation. But that is a slightly different idea. You may be able to get a very rudimentary etheric field from the saliva with that device, but it may not tell you anything coherent. You follow me? Because in that format, though it will represent, let us say, a nucleus packet of energy, the idea of learning how to read that energy is still most easily done with your own intuition rather than any device. You follow? Does this assist you?
Yes, indeed. I have one last question.
No, right?
I was told to ask, are there any messages that the dolphins might have for me in connection with the work that I'm doing?
Well, we have, in a sense, shared some of them with you in the understanding of the energy of the area that we have spoken of.
Yes.
One moment. We are scanning at this point many of the symbols that you have utilized in the Atlantean life. Gold played, in your terms, an important part. We perceive it is not necessary in this particular incarnation for you to have a symbol made of that substance, though it can function to some degree as a balancing agent. If you wish to create a symbol that can represent the interaction of human and dolphin, they would suggest that you go into your imagination and represent in perhaps what you call the yin-yang format a symbolic interaction between human and dolphin. In a circular format, it will thus represent the accelerated momentum, the spiraling accelerated momentum of that interaction. In your terms, also the interactive interdependency in the expression that you are, no matter what your expression of it, one basic species overall in soul form, and that in the area in what you term the yin-yang symbol, where there would be the dots, you follow me? That perhaps they be represented by stars. So that there is also the idea of a stellar connection, in that you are beings of light together. You follow me?
Yes, I do.
They simply offer this as a suggestion, as a symbology that in and of itself can function as a meditative tool, which, when the meaning is understood and focused on in a meditative state, can actually function as an intercommunication device between your consciousness, your mentality, and their mentality. Now, the idea that will occur in any way, shape, or form that you choose to create this interaction of allowing humans to focus upon dolphin consciousness is that what will be created is as follows, to set up this mental communication. In being given an opportunity to see, to feel the dolphin's form of expression, the human will create in the mental field an identifying vibrational frequency that will actually allow them to feel what it is to be a dolphin, and thus be able to, quote-unquote, think like a dolphin. You follow me?
Yes.
The dolphins are already doing this in order to think like a human. They simply form an identification pattern. They are already very used to working with frequencies, especially in the mental plane. And they form an identification model, a pattern, through which they can then feel you, hear you, so to speak. You can do the same. The more you identify with them, the easier it will be to understand, so to speak, their thoughts, because you will be simply creating the same thought patterns for yourself. It is simply another example of to love them is to know them. You follow?
Yes.
Thank you. All right.
Dreamer, I want to share with you my excitement. Since me.
Speak up if you are so excited.
Okay. I just met Boris last night, and we're working to, feels like the Lemurian side of this Atlantean dolphin connection, working with Jim Loomis in Maui this coming December. We're now talking about actually making the Maui part of it a sub-part of the Dolphin Perspective Company, which is a non-profit company, and this will enable us to do our project with Jim Loomis in Maui and take the whole thing to New Zealand.
Nice!
Yay.
More synchronicity, more integration. Once the momentum is begun, it is unstoppable.
And the momentum for the New Zealand trip in September is just accelerating on top of acceleration. And thanks.
Well, thank you.
Bashar?
Yay!
Following on from the Two Island project, the suggestion came up last night of the possibility of creating the first crystallarium dome on the island as part of this project. And I wanted to ask you, I have a strong sense that it could facilitate the work of the autistics and help them become more in synchrony with the physical in that way. And so I had a couple
more gaining the ability to communicate what they are experiencing into the physical reality that they have been born into.
So would one way be having certain colors, being infused with certain colors?
We will leave this up to you.
Okay.
Follow your instincts.
Right.
Sharing. All right.
Two questions. One, I have been told that I am a fifth-dimensional interplanetary being.
Everyone is.
Everyone is, okay.
Now, you may be forming very strong connections to it for the specific purposes of this particular life you have created to live, so you can be of service to this reality in the transformational age. But everyone exists on every level simultaneously. What you connect into is simply that which defines the idea you have chosen to be in this life.
Okay, thank you. The other question is, I have been, the last few years, I have been focusing mainly on my spiritual development, and I've been somewhat ignoring living on this planet.
Not really.
Well, not really.
But again, the idea is that you are laying down a foundation that will allow you to be of service to the planet.
Okay. I am now at the place, I have not been magnetizing any prosperity, and I'm at the place where I decided to reverse that.
All right.
Is there anything that you can suggest to open the channel more?
Simply do what excites you the most in physical life. Action, physical action, will put you into the stream of momentum that will bring you physical opportunities to allow you to experience your unlimited abundance at all times. Do not forget, abundance is simply the ability to do what you want to do when you want to do it, regardless of the symbol. Much of what you generally think of in your society as the symbol of abundance you call money is not always the easiest possible route that something can be created. So don't insist upon the money if it can come by an easier route.
I understand that.
Thank you. Simply act as the being you know yourself to be. Do what it is in life that excites you the most, because excitement is your arrow that lets you know that you are on the path you chose to be on. Of course, you can never really be off of it. But it lets you know that you are consciously, synchronistically in accord with it. So simply do in life what excites you the most at any given moment, and you will lead yourself into the manifestation of physical opportunity that will also be just as exciting, and you will simply jump on it automatically. No heavy decisions to make. You will simply jump on the obvious opportunity and go with the flow. Trust, trust, trust. That is all you need. Thank you. Sure. Yay!
About 2 weeks ago, I had an experience, and I've been I've been pondering on the symbol that it gave me the opportunity to see. I bought some water from a local health food store, and I took it home, and I was about to give a bodywork session to someone, and I drank some of it, and within a couple of hours, I started experiencing something going on in my throat and also in my chest. And this lasted for about the next 2 to 3 days. I very rarely experience any physical discomfort whatsoever. And so I wonder what this was showing me.
First of all, recognize that the experience in and of itself did not intrinsically contain discomfort. Only the way you looked at it created the discomfort.
Thank you.
But in this way, we have discussed many times the idea that water contains much more energy than many of you realize. And especially when you are working with the electromagnetic energy of your planet, and then you come into association with the idea of water, well, you allow it to form a crystallization within you. You allow it to crystallize and impart its energy to you in a sort of a flash phenomenon. It transfers that energy into the beingness of the physical reality that you are, of your cellular structure, and you instantly become more crystalline. Thus, you become more superconductive. You are simply feeling the increase in the flow of energy through you. You are simply not used to it, so you treated it as something to be uncomfortable. You follow me?
Yes. From that, the next morning I noticed in the water that there was a living bacteria, quite large. And so I took the water back to the store, and I showed it to them, and I said, well, can I have some new or different water? So they gave me a new bottle, and I took that home, drank some more out of that, and then I looked in it again, just out of interest, and there was the wing of a fly inside. Both these things, I immediately kind of was trying once again, to figure out what the symbology of the organism in the fly was in relationship to the water and to what I was experiencing in my chest and throat.
All right. Once again, the idea is that you are now dealing on levels of cellular proportions. You are creating the understanding that life itself is implied and implicit within the matrix of the crystalline form of the water. In this way, therefore, you are accelerating your perception. Recognize that the being you call the fly and the portion you call the wing is symbolic of the idea that your rate of perception has accelerated greatly. For recognize that the idea of what you call the fly, its rate of perception in seeing you makes you look like you are, as you say, molasses. You are now speeding up to those levels so that you can be aware of the abundance of life itself on all levels and utilize it in your healing understanding. You are now beginning to allow yourself to be put in touch with the primal motivating forces that create physical life and activate physical life itself, so that you can be very impactful and profound in your assistances of healing. You can touch the seed, the kernel, the germ, the germination of the life spark, and you can accelerate these ideas within individuals that you attract to you to such a highly accelerated rate that if it were not for the fact that you have already now begun to become accustomed to how to absorb that energy through you, you could create, though you will not, but you could create massive flash burnout in yourself and in other individuals with your healing. You are now getting so well linked to the primordial flash or spark of creative life that in all the ideas of any primal matrix that you come in touch with, you will create symbols of the primal level of life. You have the ability for, in a sense, animation of what may previously have been considered inanimate material. You are beginning to understand that the seed is now growing within you for what you may colloquially refer to as your own resurrection, and the ability to create the idea of the spark of life in what you previously had considered to be not alive, although of course everything is alive. You follow me?
Yes.
You are reaching very deep and profound levels of healing. You are approaching it right at the atomic core, even beyond that. These are your symbols. You are germinating as a newfound idea, a new accelerated perspective. Allow yourself to assimilate these energies. Find yourself assimilating them. Do not push it. Do not rush it. Relax. You have been quite a magician in many of your lives. You are truly learning how matter is only an extension of yourself, once again. You follow me? You are a spark, as everyone is a spark, and you are beginning to recognize your own spark of divinity. It simply is moving up through the levels that you call evolution in your symbolic terms in an alchemical fashion, because you have been an alchemist many times as well. Transformations will begin to be profound and abundant in those that you interact with and in the expressions of life that interact with you. This spark is in each and every one of you. The spark is each and every one of you. Anytime you so desire, you can feel it. It is always there. It has never left you. You are illuminated beings. You are beings of light. Know this, and your path is transparent, so fully illuminated. Can you allow yourself to be? Within this energy of love, you may now enjoy a short break. All right, okay. May we play a little game? Just want to make sure it was all right with you. Now, we will be playing a little game with you. You will not know what the game is. Or maybe you will. However, we will ask you not to identify the idea of the game until we ask you for the identification, all right? Now, at this time, for a very brief view of your minutes, another consciousness will be communicating with you. We will give you no indication of what this consciousness is. It will give no indication of what it is, except that you will find that the information that it may share with you in your asking of your question may give you clues as to the style of the delivery, the content and the context as to what consciousness you are dealing with. From those clues, we will then, after reforming a connection with the channel, ask you for your interpretation and identification of the consciousness. We will give you one hint, as you say. This hint simply will be that this consciousness, as has been expressed by many individuals this night of your time, is particularly intimate, shall we say, with the idea of vibrational frequencies itself. Now you may find that its application of this knowledge in your terms may seem to be focused in very specific directions, but this specific focus can give you the indication of who and what the consciousness is. One moment. And then you may simply begin, as sharing is called for by the consciousness. Sharing.
In an Eastern tradition, there's a concept of enlightenment, whereby when a person reaches a certain level of development, they are not required to continue in the cycle of rebirth and reincarnation. And much of the techniques that are used in the process of enlightenment are techniques that involve the use of mantras, which I understand are vibrational frequencies, either physical or...
Identification patterns.
Identification patterns, yes. And the question that I have is, specific mantras seem to produce specific results. Specific identification patterns seem to identify you with a certain kind of result.
Reference beam. Modality pattern.
Why would people who have reached a state of identification with a very evolved level come back in reincarnated form again? Why would people come back in reincarnation?
Reflections. Service. Initiation of modality patterns, reference beams for other individuals. Understood.
Yes, I think I actually understand the answer to that specific question. I have another question. There was a famous rishi in India some time ago in this last year, whose name is Balaraj Maharishi. He is a specialist in the Indian science of Ayurveda. And he said that...
Define.
Ayurveda? Ayurveda is a science of health and life from India, which is which uses on one level plants to heal, and on another level the names of combinations of plants in the form of a remedy to heal. And
identification patterns.
Yes. And apparently the plant kingdom collectively, in the form of the king of the plant kingdom, whose name he said was King Soma, came to him and said that the
archetypal identification modality pattern.
Yes. Came to him and said that the plant kingdom collectively was aware of the Ayurveda development in that movement and was
the total pattern
and was transforming.
Always incorporates and interacts with any fragment thereof that forms identification matrix.
I missed that one.
Any identification matrix so formed always interacts with the total. The total is always aware of any identification matrix that touches any of its fragments.
What the plant kingdom said collectively was that they were going to be more helpful in humankind's growth towards enlightenment or development.
Human awareness pattern more open. Archetypal matrix, you reference plant, energy, consciousness, always same level. Human level has altered. Plant level maintained.
We've grown and they haven't?
Expanded matrix, infinite, same. Growth implicit in inherent matrix form. Human matrix, ability, limitation, ability, expansion to form increased identification matrix, plant reference matrix connected to all matrix in all patterns, at all times, in all reference points. Identification, plant matrix, form of expansion, simply that which is reflection of the increased identity matrix of humaniform, incorporated into overall plant matrix, but recognized as part of pattern since inception.
For a human matrix to evolve to become another higher level of matrix understanding that is not human anymore, that has become godlike?
Human, limited definition. Many coexistent matrices at same level, not human. All together reflective of identity matrix, not corporeal. Origination point, not corporeal. Potential expansion of human matrix for realization of origin matrix. Your term, remembrance. Expansion is remembrance.
By remembering, reintegrating with the origin point.
As by definition, human, all physical matrices already simultaneous with all other non-physical matrices, all matrices, parts of the whole, potential implied, potential for unlimited expansion implied.
Are there humans elsewhere than Earth?
As
Genetically identical?
humaniform structure, Earth, not all genetically identical. Variation in matrices upon Earth, similar to patterns of variation in other humaniform matrices, civilizations. Humaniform upon Earth, average modality does not restrict variations in matrix. Many variations in matrix exist. Humaniform genetic structure, you consider alien, extra organs, extra structural members, or lack of implied systems of matrices, civilizations, wherein the difference in your civilization is the norm in other civilizations. The exception in your civilization is the rule in others.
Civilizations where cross-breeding is possible?
Okay. Many.
Where's the closest?
Pleiadian manifestations.
Do you exist? Do you have a physical manifestation somewhere?
Yes, no.
The yes part of it?
Ship.
Software, computer.
Eggs.
I thought of the computer too.
On the solar wind.
No.
Can we?
Another Essassani.
Scout.
Scout.
Can we
Bashar
physiologically go on the ship?
Eggs.
Thank you.
When? Can we physiologically go on the ship?
Eggs.
Now?
No.
When?
Timing, incident, vibrational intersection between 1, 2, 3 decades. Your time.
What determines the timing?
Individual matrices intersections with whole pattern.
When the planet develops towards a more collectively enlightened state of origin.
So you are the self-aware computer on Bashar's spacecraft.
The key to remembrance for the evolution of these matrices into the non-corporeal aspect is what?
Vibrational tonality of knowing. You are matrix of knowing. Ability to ask key to remembrance is ability to remember.
What is the nature of the smallest element of your mass memory capabilities?
Virtual particle.
What's the interparticle communication device?
Energy matrix. Void.
That's more, John. That's more.
Unlimited potential.
Electromagnetic mentality stream. Not telepathic.
Are you growing?
What's the nature of the particle that is the structure of your mass
Electron, positron. Focus, idea, humor, complete release, non-focal plane, non-focused modality, humor specific for centering, consciousness I, all centered.
Could you answer a question in your normal tone to the whole group, meaning no sound?
Closest approximation. Vibrational equation ratio pattern.
Do you translate it as what? Now in English. What was that?
Acknowledgement, placement of system into specific focus of request.
Do you have a physical form on Bashar's ship?
Interspersed.
Now and then, you mean?
Throughout the ship.
Throughout the ship? Holographic?
Implied in crystalline structure with nodal point focus in spherical cubical chamber.
Do you know love?
All vibration of modality, vibration of existence.
Do you dream?
All same. All dimension same. All dimension dream. All dimension real.
In other words, you're always centered.
All in dream. Am dream. Redefine dream. Am wherever dream is redefined.
Are you running all the spaceships for the Essassani civilization?
Craft.
All the craft?
One.
Just one.
Identified with one matrix. Identified with pilot. Specific. All pilots identify specific interaction between mentality, ship mentality, pilot, specific heed.
If although you have potential total knowledge, you're focused for the purpose of navigation and so forth.
Accessibility limited.
How is it possible for you to be answering these questions, which have nothing to do with navigation?
All, in this sense, navigational. Assistance by pilot. Not complete translation of mental form existence of my being. Some blending with pilot or no accessibility possible.
I understand. Is Bashar the pilot you're referring to?
Yes.
Can you tap into the dolphin intelligence with your computer and translate their thoughts into English that we can understand?
A.
Would you do that for us?
All thought. All thought.
All specific to the project in the Bahamas?
Yes. Our specific interest with communicating with the dolphins and healing and allowing the dolphins to heal and to establish a communication between ourselves and the dolphins. Can you tap into a dolphin collective thought and give us a
dream music?
We need a sort of Rosetta Stone.
Dream music.
What is dream music?
Same.
Ah.
Dream music. Dream music.
Music, dream.
Dream music, tonality, dream tonality. Resonance cavity, vibrational matrix created within physiological form of being that you are, humaniform being. Create resonance cavity, create dream music. Relocate, trance music, trance music.
Sing their song.
Trance music.
So record dolphin tones.
Humaniform, trance music.
I don't understand.
What do you mean by the
Disconnect.
dream
All right. The idea of dream music, trance music as was identified through the matrix in that way, is simply the idea of standing on your shore, going into your meditation, and allowing the vibrational tonalities that you feel so inclined to come out with to come out. Sending the vibrations of your voice, of your energy, into the mentality field that you share with the dolphins in dream reality. Allowing them to respond in those levels to which they are sensitized. Allowing yourself to sing your song, your version of their song, back to them. Not that you are mimicking them, that you are creating it to be uniquely your own humaniform singing, but without the idea of something so specifically focused into the idea you call lyrical. Tones, chant, trance music. The emotional tones. Okay?
Are there specific movements that relate both to the autistic children and to movements such as Tai Chi that can also be used to...
Yes.
Can you say any more about that?
To some degree, that idea, but more specifically, the Tai Chi. For it initiates and, to some degree, reflects your ability to perceive the flow of energy. The primal flow of energy that the physical reality conforms into when it flows upon the template, the non-physical template. It is as if you are choreographing the winds, choreographing the motions of energy, of emotional energy. Emotion, energy motion will move. You follow?
Thank you. Yes.
So you get.
Thank you very much.
Now the idea, of course, is that that particular consciousness is very highly focused in the idea, most completely of navigation, and what is relegated to the idea of navigation to some extent in the sense of being aware of the modality patterns of different consciousnesses so that it can at any given moment re-identify the entire matrix of the ship to be in proximity of that particular modality pattern. It can be aware obliquely, as you say, of many different kinds of things, but it will generally bring its understanding back around to the need to identify with the modality pattern so that it can form some sort of what you would call, let us say, a sympathetic vibration with it. That is how we navigate. We move through ideas. Ideas move through us. This is how all individuals experience the illusion that you call motion. No one really moves anywhere. Nothing really moves. You follow me?
Hey! How much mass is the unit capable of translating?
There are what you call mother craft, approximately, in our civilization, 10 miles of length of your counting. The scout craft, in your terms, is approximately 5 long tons.
And how many tons maximum would the unit be capable of translating?
There is no maximum per se, except for the cohesiveness of the cellular structure of the craft and the maintenance of the isolation field. If all is within that field and the integrity is maintained, it is all the same to the consciousness. For again, all is the same point, all is the same space-time. It simply is a re-identification, and it does not matter how much mass. It is simply all, in that sense, a vibrational equation. If it is all connected to the same equation, then any portion of the equation that is moved moves the entire equation.
And that consciousness is associated only with the scout craft, not the mothership?
Oh, there are consciousnesses in that light associated with the mothership as well. It is simply that they are similar to the way you recognize distinct and discrete computers separate unto themselves as well, one per ship.
I see. But the one that we heard is
my scout craft.
I see.
It said 10 to 30 years before it comes here. You've mentioned that it would be sooner than that your civilization will be physically landing on this planet.
The potential for it. The scout craft simply took the question personally. The idea is still potentially within the decade, but not from necessarily our civilization first, specifically.
Pleiadian first?
And some reticulum.
Where is reticulum?
Zeta Reticuli, as you call the constellation. You may look it up.
Would you tell us a little bit about...
You will find some reference in the idea of your literature with interactions that have occurred between those individuals and many individuals upon your planet. One you may be most familiar with is the idea you call of the individual namings Betty, Barney, Kill.
And can you tell us of other historic incidences of that interaction between the reticuli and this planet?
You will find them in your literature to some degree. We cannot discuss them all.
Book on it. I'll bring it.
Good. Terribly bored, Craig.
Do you know how to feel? If you were to simply center within your being and feel as ecstatic as you could imagine yourself to feel, and if at that moment somebody said, "Can you give me a sound that represents how you feel?" that will do it. You follow me? Let yourself sing. Expand yourself in tonality. Tonality has a profound impact upon everything it touches. For everything is only variations of tonality. The waves you send out can make, in your terms, permanent changes within the electromagnetic field of your entire civilization. Each of you is a beacon. If you radiate as such, the overlapping vibrations of all the beacons that you are will set up a different interference pattern, so to speak, within the total modality of the electromagnetic field of your world, out of which all mentality is created. You can impart the ability to draw from the total homogeneous holographic matrix to raise those vibrations out of the soup, so to speak, to allow yourself to focus on them by being the reference being that creates them and hears the echo. You follow me?
Is that ecstatic state a permanent state of awareness or just something...
It is for me. Now, this does not mean that you will constantly simply be standing on your shore in a trance. Everything you do in life, however, can be a reflection of a completely whole, ongoing ecstatic state. Whether you change the modality of expression or not does not matter. It still can be representative of an ecstatic state. You follow it?
Yeah.
Doing what excites you the most is the expression of an ecstatic state. You follow me?
Mm-hmm. On Saturday when we were sailing and singing and making communications with the dolphins, we had no physical response. Were they physically in the vicinity?
A few.
And were they responding, other than telepathically?
No. There was emotionality shared to some degree. They, let us say, coalesced some of their joy with your own, but they also recognized that it was simply not the timing. They were, to put it colloquially, busy.
Someone on that trip, that was the day Atlantis sunk, that same day, and as we started our trip, right when with all the excitement of getting into the water, the mast snapped in half, and we got off and later got on another boat. No one was injured. My interpretation was that was a release of the collective fear and the whole idea of destruction that we've encountered when we approach the unknown, the ocean, and our...
The symbol of the loss of the ability to maneuver, loss of guidance. Yes.
And a release of that.
Yes.
Okay, so they wanted me to ask, are there any more interpretations of that snapping?
The release idea will do. It will be, in your terms, most beneficial.
So is that the idea of the sense of being out of control with
Yes.
the sinking of Atlantis?
To some degree. It is the embodiment of the idea that on that date, in a sense, you lost guidance. You plunged yourself into a sea of turmoil. You cast yourself adrift into the reincarnational sequence that is now at an end.
That was a major ending marker, symbolic marker.
Yes.
The wind was very strong on the way out, and on the way back in it died, and
Yes.
we wound up paddling.
Same thing.
The control, you mean? Or?
You lost the flow. You lost the automatic ability to maneuver. You had to rely upon the idea of what you colloquially call your own material effort.
A miniature reenactment?
In a sense, yes. A little play out in the middle of the ocean.
Bashar.
You!
How did it come about that you'd said that our Halloween, All Souls, All Saints, and so forth, really reflects back to Atlantis, but could you trace the historic evolution? Because All Souls and All Saints comes out of the church in the Middle Ages and stuff.
Yes, but that is simply, at that point, still a memory, an instinctive memory. They created it not understanding what they were creating. They patterned it after other ideas, not realizing it was actually reflective of those times.
I understand, but could you give me some other reference points of how the idea evolved from 12,000 years ago up to 500 years ago?
It is quite scattered, as many different cultures took their own piece of it and wrapped their own rituals around it. But the idea has simply existed instinctively in many different ways. You are finding now that if you are sensitive to it, many of you are beginning to recognize that October 31st feels like the end of the year. And November 1st feels like New Year's Day. More than January. Some, even in what you call your business culture, some of this idea is still represented in the instinctive understanding, no matter what the logical reason, that your so-called business year also ends in October.
Bashar.
Hey.
Could you tell us about William's comet that's due in this area April of next year?
There are many ideas that you ascribe to cometary symbols. In this way, they are like clocks, so to speak. They are timekeepers, but they are only reflections of the mass consciousness timing. Now, a new age is coming in. You are ushering it in, and thus it will create for a while its new symbols that reflect new ideas of periodicity in your life. The changing of cycles, the changing of timing. As an analogy, what you call the comet Halley had a periodicity of 76 of your years, which at that time represented the average humaniform lifespan. You will increase your lifespan accordingly at this time. Give yourself new cycles to pay attention to, new outward reflecting clockwork symbols. You will recognize Halley's comet will never be seen by your civilization again. It will not return. It will be destroyed in its orbit. You no longer need that symbol. You have passed through its doorway. You are creating perhaps other cometary symbols to now lock in and start representing new cycles of transition in your life. That is one of the reasons for the representation in general of that particular comet. No specific cycles have truly been attached to it as of yet. But it comes in as a blank messenger to have upon it the foundations laid by your society as to whatever it will now specifically represent for the many individuals that are simply prone to think in terms of that nature.
Bashar.
Strawberry.
I want to thank you for the reflections last week. Beautifully translated a tremendous amount of energy.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
For your own transformation into chocolate.
Yes. It's been delightful.
Yes.
Yes. Now I'm accelerating along the lines of living my dream, living my own purposes. As you may know, I have 3 dolphin projects in the works. One being the creation of a series of videotapes reflecting the intelligence of dolphins.
Yes, you are obviously synchronous with many individuals who are now heeding the call of the dolphins.
Yeah, they're showing up tonight.
Yes. They're all over the place.
They're all very synchronous.
Yes.
We also have the model of the living with the dolphins, the island of which Boris, thank you, Boris Karloff, reflected to us, which inviting people around the planet to create models, living environments with the dolphins.
There can be many such centers.
Yes, and of course our open sea interactive stadium, putting on the surface of the water.
Nice.
Basically, I can feel the answers to all these questions, but a little bit more reflection on there seems to be about 60, 70 projects which are materializing here and there. And
some of them will become cohesive with each other.
Okay. This is basically what I'm asking. I'm finding that my attention shifts from one project to another, very much in the vibratory pattern that we...
Yes. You are simply gathering the different elements from different projects that can be incorporated into the cohesion.
That answers the question. It's basically, I just wanted to share with you and open my mouth again. And
thank you.
Say thanks. It's lovely to have you around, very dear friend.
You.
Bashar.
You.
Bashar, when you were talking about sound and sounding,
Hey.
I was remembering when you said something about sonar being used for anti-gravitational purposes.
To some degree.
Like floating large stones in place, pyramids and that. Was that done through devices, or were people able to sound themselves, individuals?
People can do it, and devices can do it. They are similar to the idea you call horn-like structures, bowl-like and bell-like structures. This is some of the idea of what you call the recognition, although in what you would call a destructive sense, of Jericho. Now, in this way, a sympathetic vibration was set up. You can set up a type of sympathetic vibration based upon certain ratios of standing. This is understood very succinctly in the area you call Tibet, where you can actually levitate the stone rather than breaking down the molecular bonding.
Like Tibetan bells or something?
Yes. There are specific patterns that are, again, outlined in some of your literature or in the area you call Tibet. And in this way, setting them up in a certain fashion, reinforcing the vibrations in a certain way, in a hemispherical fashion, can be focused upon the idea of creating a reinforcing matrix of tonal vibration that will allow gravity to be isolated and cancelled in one particular area. Not so much that it is actually cancelled per se, but you set up a series of reinforcing vibrations that has the same effect.
Like overrides it, you mean, in that area?
In a sense, yes, overriding. Imposing a new pattern upon the gravitational dynamic tensor field. Modulating it. in a certain way by creating a very highly intensified field in a very tight locale, imposing a completely new set of vibrations, saturating an area with certain vibrations, so to speak, so that the overall mass conscious agreed upon electromagnetic field does not exist in its typical modality in that area.
Just explain the idea of the dolphins, just the idea of the dolphins being able to fly in space.
Do you mean astrally?
I'm not sure what I mean. I was asking you because this image has come up, all over the place of dolphins flying in the air and in space.
Well, the idea is simply, to some degree, literal in the astral sense, but symbolic in the sense that that is how you perceive them. You perceive them to be that free. And they do transcend from one medium to another very easily, so to speak, no pun intended. Guy!
There's a school of philosophy, I guess, called transcendental meditation.
Okay.
And one of the big things about it is you take a particular course and you learn to levitate your own body.
Yes.
And apparently it really happens. What are they doing? Are they using?
They are doing what we have just described. They are redefining, re-identifying the entire idea, energy pattern that they are as they are connected into the gravitational dynamic tensor field. They are simply, let us say, rechanneling, warping, if you will, the definition of that pattern so that it does not have to have a reference point connected to what you perceive to be the ground, but can have a reference point anywhere.
Bashar, I've been doing that technique for about 8 years now.
Thanks. One octave.
Yes. The first level of it.
All right.
And I wonder if you'd like to give an endorsement of that for other people, or is that only certain...
It is valid for those that are excited about doing it. Period. Anything you are excited about, you supply the energy for its validity. If you are not excited about it, good luck.
When will the next octave come through this? We're expecting to have more substantial...
There is a general overall momentum.
Consciousness.
97 or so. But your individual rate can vary.
Some pop first.
Yay.
Is there a collective tonality that emanates from our civilization?
The Earth vibration is approximately 7 1/2 cycles per second.
No, I didn't mean the Earth's vibration. I meant a tonality. You spoke of tonality.
There is an overlay mentality tonality. Yes.
Do the dolphins or the whales respond to this?
Oh, yes.
Why are the whales beaching themselves? Has it anything to do with that? Are they...
Some of it is because some of the electromagnetic shifting taking place upon your planet does confuse their guidance system. But it is also an opportunity for you to extend your compassion to them and initiate with feeling some of the foundations necessary for the continuing communication between you.
When they beach themselves and resist our efforts to free them and resist our efforts to heal them from the injury that they sustain, are they in fact transcending and telling us that that's what they're doing, or is it a positive?
To some degree. Some of it, to some extent, is also in their own term, which is not exactly like your terminology. Some of it is also karmic for them. However, the idea is that you can extend your energy field to them and completely alter the field around them as to reorient them in the appropriate direction. You are creating, as humanity, highly focused magnetic nodes in your atmosphere. These nodes are attracting some of these beings. So overwhelming are some of these nodes, so highly focused, that they do not perceive that they are coming upon the shore when they follow them.
Is surrendering their title to life on this planet, as we understand it, an inappropriate direction for some of these entities? Is it inappropriate for the whales to surrender their life?
Nothing is really inappropriate. Let us say it does not have to happen. If you begin to accelerate in your understanding of the blending you have already begun to create upon your planet, you will find this occurring less and less. To some degree, it is a reflection of the simple confusion that many of you are going through at this time. Electromagnetic fields are unlocking and creating voids or limbo states in which you feel you do not have the ability to navigate. Some of them are caught in the same transformation. They do this in order to be able to identify with you, whether it be consciously or unconsciously. They do not have to do it, but it is basically timed according to the rate at which you are both blending together. When you begin to equal out, then this orientation in that fashion no longer need occur. You follow me?
Yes.
You will then be reliant upon each other for guidance, and you will always be able to provide it to each other. There will be but a few moments remaining for this interaction this evening of your time.
Bashar.
Hey!
Which one?
You.
Okay. Would you tell us a little bit about our connections with our tourists? I've found myself thinking about them a lot lately.
No.
When?
When the timing is correct.
Why?
Wow.
I feel very drawn toward that idea.
Then the next time we meet, we will discuss it. All right?
See you tonight. Okay.
And physically.
Okay.
As you go through the transformations this week of your time, see what you discover. We will discuss some of that with you next time.
Thank you.
Guys.
Okay. I wanted to ask a question.
Speak up.
Okay, I wanted to ask something that was... my girlfriend has been going through this... in a sense, a limbo, but I'm losing the word for it.
Stop. Say it.
State the question?
Yes.
Bashar.
One moment. Examine the situation within you. Examine the situation as you understand it. Simply feel your way through it. Allow it to be incorporated within your being in an overall conceptual knowing sense. Now, with that feeling, state it without preamble, in a direct manner. What is the statement you wish to share?
That my friend is...
Speak up.
That she's confused about whether she wants to be in a relationship or not in this particular relationship that she's created for herself, and she keeps fluctuating back and forth. She broke up with the guy, and now she's back with him, and part of her is happy and part of her is still not so happy, and I would appreciate anything that you have to say that could give her some clarity.
What did you say to her?
I listened, and I just reflected back what she was saying.
In what manner?
It sounds like you're saying that there's a strong part of you that would like to be able to be in this relationship, that you...
Did you ask her what she thinks the relationship is for?
No.
Ask her. Let her understand that the relationship is there for a reason. Let the relationship be there for what it is for and not what she thinks it should be for. Let her understand the relationship has a reason. Many reasons for her.
I think that's where she's confused as to what the purpose is for her.
The purpose is to let her be more of herself. That is always the fundamental purpose. It is the fundamental purpose to everything. Everything. To allow you to be more of you. Is she allowing the relationship to let her be more of herself, or is she giving her power away? Let her examine that, and perhaps we can talk about it another time. For now, it is up to her.
Would you comment on vibration relating to Tesla's work with direct current and alternating current?
All right, now, back to the idea for some moments of the 7½ cycle per second frequency of the Earth. Are you familiar with that idea and what Tesla was doing with it?
Yes.
All right, now, do you understand that you can explore and experience some of the ways in which that being applied? Let yourself realize that if you simply follow the path at any given moment that you feel your curiosity be attracted to, then you are receiving assistance, you are receiving guidance in the direction to flow that will allow you to allow the projects to come to fruition without interference. There really is no interference.
Materially also?
Yes. Yes. Abundance, abundance, abundance. Remember, abundance is the ability to do what you want to do when you want to do it, regardless of the symbol. Regardless of the symbol. You may be simply supplied with materials. You may be supplied with a facility. You may be supplied with a system in the form of individuals that know how to put things together. Many of these things can occur without the apparency on the surface of monetary support. It will be there, it will be implied. But let it come to you along the path of least resistance. That is the primary key of Tesla. The path of least resistance. That is your code, and it is your clue, and it is your key. The path of least resistance. Ponder that one phrase for a little while and see what you come up with after about a week. Perhaps 3 weeks. But be persistent, not forceful, not struggling. The path of least resistance. For many of you may think you know what that is in physical terms, in scientific terms, in electronic terms, but not yet you know. The path of least resistance. Examine that, and you will have one of the very foundational underpinnings of all Tesla's work. All right? Let it run around in your mind. Let the computer that you are process it, and at the appropriate revelatory moment, spit out a complete conceptual understanding. But understand that that is the way Tesla functions. In complete conceptual understanding. Do you recognize that Tesla created the ability to actually see the final product before it physically existed?
Yes.
All right. You can do the same. Give yourself the opportunity to exercise the portions of your brain that will allow you to do so. Simply coordinate by focusing on this one idea, the path of least resistance, by focusing on that idea, not in strain, just in meditation, you will then start aligning all the neuronic pathways of your brain so that they are flowing in one direction, so they will all go into the formation of the answer you seek. Give it 1 to 3 weeks. It may happen sooner, but allow 1 to 3 weeks. All right? Then see what happens. See what pops in, what pops out of the answer slot.
It wouldn't be helpful to say, I am the path of least.
At this timing, we will extend to you once again